Thank you so much for joining us on Straight Outta Savannah. I have my guest, SofiaLyn, here. She is going to tell you who she is and what it is that she does and how she can help you. So, SofiaLyn, take it away.
Oh, thank you so much, Tammy. It's an honor to be on your show. I'm so glad to be able to talk to your audience. And my name is SofiaLyn, and I am a coach, a mentor, a teacher, a psychic reader. I do tarot as well as psychic readings. I'm a writer, and I just published a couple of ebooks, which are available on Etsy, and we can talk about that later. But I'm also an energy healer, and my biggest focus now is working with women to do sound and energy healing with them for all kinds of things, pain control, working with their body's energy cores, which help us to feel better, be better, and control our physical, say, our body parts, our body functions. It's just such a blessing to be alive at this point in time because I'm able to help a lot of people. And I do it online, long distance, with things like Reiki and working with Chinese traditional medicine techniques and sound energy and stuff like that. So it's a real great time to be alive. And it's exciting to see the changes and things that are coming. So I guess you can say I'm a metaphysician, and I cover a lot of territory with that, which we met at the university. So for your audience, I'm eager to get out and to talk about things, spirituality, and how we are changing as a species, how the planet is changing, how we are all part of the planet and all of the transition that's going on. What you're seeing on the planet today, the craziness, the drama, trauma, is all part of this process of spiritual growth and transformation. It is part of what we need to go through in order to have this wonderful new world we've all been praying for and begging for hundreds, maybe thousands of years. It's time is now. That transition, that change is happening. So I'm here to help people find their way through it, not to show them what to do or tell them what to do, but to help each individual figure out, how does this affect me and how do I fit into it? And more importantly, how do I process through this? Because it is a very individual experience. What's happening with the planet is a change of consciousness, not a physical change, but the change in the way we think, the way we behave, the way we treat each other, the way we treat the planet. It's a consciousness evolution, which is a greater connection with spirit, that one essential presence of which everything is a part.
Let's back it up. Let's talk about how you got on this particular journey. Because
Oh,
most of us were born with these gifts, but how did you get on this particular journey that took you into the land of metaphysics and these wonderful, beautiful gifts that you have?
my journey into this new spiritual study began 48 years ago. I was born and raised in the traditional religion of in fact, my family was a very church going family. My mother was Baptist. My grandmother was Seventh day Adventist, and my father was AME Methodist. So I grew up around church all my life. But then when I was about 20 years old, maybe 22, I met a man by the name of Dr. Paul Masters, who is the founder of the University of Metaphysics.
Yeah.
And actually, I think I was 22 because the way I met him was I was trying to lose the baby weight I gained after having my daughter. And I remember there was a magazine, which is not a publication anymore. It's called the New Woman magazine. And I happened to pick it up. And in it, there was an article called "You Can Think Yourself Thin." And I read the article, and it was about affirmation and meditation and doing this reprogramming of your mind. And as I started doing it, I had these doubts about, oh, you can't really do this. But in the the writer's credits at the end of the article was the name of this man. I think his name was Novell, and it said metaphysician. And I'm like, what is that? So I got most of you guys don't even know about, something called the phone book.
Yeah.
But yeah, most of today's audience probably is not even old enough to know what a phone book was. And it was the Yellow Pages, which is a book that was about this thick. And it was a listing. I lived in Los Angeles, which is a huge area even back then. But there was the Yellow Pages was the phone book where you would find businesses and organizations. And then there was a smaller one called the Gray Pages, which were residential listings. But I got out the phone book to look up metaphysics. And as I was scanning through it, I found this listing for something called, at the time, called, I think it was the National Metaphysics Institute. And I picked up the phone and called, and this wonderful lady named Levon answered the phone. And I asked her, I said, can you really think yourself in? And she said, oh, yes, you can. And you need to come up here to the office, to the facility, because Dr. Masters is doing his introductions to meditation dynamics class, and it's free. And you can come and listen to him present the class and ask him questions and see what you think about it.
Wow.
So I remember it was a Wednesday evening, and I went to the class, and it was a free presentation, and he talked about meditation and all this stuff. And I was sitting there looking at him thinking, oh my God, this is programming. You're not going to get my mind, because at that time, the cults and all kinds of other things were going on, and people were being kidnapped and deprogrammed and all this stuff. And the newspaper was about people running off and becoming hippies and all this stuff. And I'm sitting there thinking, you're not going to grab my mind. You're not going to hypnotize me and all this. But by the time he finished the presentation, there was something inside of me that said, this is for you. You need to do this, because he was starting to answer questions that I had been asking for years and could never get answers to. So I wanted to lose weight bad enough that I decided, okay, I'll try it. And I went ahead and signed up for the 8-week course and took the meditation class. And it was a life-changing experience, because things began to shift. My life began to change. I began to step into something new and different that felt more like home than religion did for me. And that the rest of the story is, that was 48 years ago. I was able to lose the weight, and I often wonder sometime along the years after why I never went back to those old processes that introduced me to the program, because it did work. I was able to lose about 20 pounds back then, but I got so distracted into everything else and just never got back to using that technique again. But it did lead me to making changes in my life and in the way I thought, in the way I looked at life, and the way I lived it, to the point where I couldn't go back to being the way I had before I met Dr. Masters. And since then, over my lifetime, it's helped me to create a life that was wonderful, that was prosperous. I was a professional IT professional for about 34 years or so. So I had a lot of happiness and joy, and my life worked really well. And it brought me out to the point back in 2017 where I was asked to become the only mentor and teacher for the University of Metaphysics, teaching his curriculum to the students. And I did that up until just a few months ago. So it's a period of about 8 years that I was the mentor, teaching and sharing with other students all the wonderful things that he shared with me as I studied with him live. He passed away in 2016. It was a natural step for me, being one of the few people still around who had studied with him live, to step into, in a way, to step into his shoes and share all of those experiences and the information that he had given me with the students. So it was a wonderful experience to be able to do that. But that journey ended in May. And now I'm moving into I won't say totally different. I'm still teaching and sharing metaphysics, but on a much higher, much different level now. And I'm much happier doing that, because I've moved into teaching classes and doing things to share this new consciousness, this new process that humanity and the planet are going through, and being able to teach people how to live in this new energy of our higher level of being. And it's just delightful to be able to share all of the years of learning and help people to step into the new world that we are trying to create.
That's powerful. That's really an amazing story because the thing is, it feels like once you opened up the door and once you were ready to receive, then you were able to get what your destiny was.
Yeah, and that's what it's like for everyone. We as humans settle into habits and ways that we get so stuck and into such resistance, we don't want to change. One of the things that we do very well is resist change. And yet we are surrounded by change, constant change. Nothing stays the same. We are given examples of change and transformation in our everyday lives. No 2 days are exactly the same. Most of us don't even like to eat the same things 2 days in a row or two meals in a row. Nature changes, constant changes all around us. And yet we tend to want to dig in and stay stuck in our stuff, and we fear change I think we fear change probably more than we fear death. And we fight it and resist it, which is what causes all of the dysfunction, the trauma, drama, and the craziness that we experience in our lives because our souls came here to evolve, to grow, to learn, to experience, to do things in this life for various reasons. But our souls did not come here to grow up and be in a body and be stuck in that way of living forever. It's part of what gives us illness and causes all kinds of unhappiness in our lives. We are supposed to grow and evolve and become better and do different things and to have greater experiences. That's really the whole reason why we are here. So for me, as I'm going into this, when I'm calling this last phase, at this point in my life, I feel like I should be in the last phase of the work that I came here to do because, as we were talking earlier, I'm a baby boomer. And the baby boomers came in at right around the time of the end of World War II. And things started changing rapidly after when we came in. And as a generation, we've probably affected more change on the world than any generation before us. We started when I remember as a kid having a telephone. We had those big old boxy phones that sat on a desk. And at the time where I was growing up, there was such a thing as called a party line. Not even every household didn't even have a private line. Sometimes there was terabyte. Yeah, and you pick up the phone and there might be somebody on the
When
phone
talking already?
with conversation, and you'd have to wait until they finished before you could get to use the phone. And it was a line phone that had a cord that was permanently connected to the wall. And so it was no such thing as taking a phone and going anywhere with it. You would have to use the phone based on how long that cord was in the room or in the house where you lived. But we went from telephones, and then when I was a kid, we had black and white TV, and it was a big box with a little bitty screen on it. My computer screen is twice the size of the screen on the TV that we used to watch. And it had something we call rabbit ears, an antenna that sat on the top of the TV. And then it just quite right. You couldn't get a clear channel.
Right.
Channels went off at midnight. There were no 24-hour TV channels. They went off at midnight and there was static until 6 a.m. in the morning. And that's if you lived in a big city like I did, like LA. Some of the smaller areas may have only had 2 or 3 channels and maybe TV only 12 hours.
Cartoons being Saturday, Thursday, 12.
Yeah. And then we grew up and then computers came in. And now, yeah, and when I got out of high school and was going into college, my mom, IBM was a big thing then, and she was she was visionary enough to say, you need to get into computers. She also knew I was a very inquisitive kid. I like to figure things out. And she said, you're going to do well in computers and that'll help you make money so you can live. And she was absolutely right. Computers took very good care of me and my family over the years, and I did it for some 35 years until I retired into. then, and back then when I first got into computers, and I think it was Savannah computer had 360, was it 360K or 64K as the entire computer, including the are so much bigger and so much more sophisticated than this big computer that had tape drives and hard disk drives that filled up an entire room. And now we walk around with something like this and carry the power of everything in our hands. And we can go all over the world with that little box and do everything that we couldn't even do when I first got into computers. So when I retired in 2004, I call myself retiring, and I'm still trying, trying to retire. It's been 21 years. I'm still trying to retire. And so when I got the call or became part of the university staff and started teaching for the university in 2017, it was my real beginning of stepping into fully into my metaphysical career, where I was actually getting into energy healing and teaching meditation and teaching the metaphysical curriculum, exploring spirituality in the way it really is, and stepping into what has become my way of life now. And it was a true blessing for that to happen, moving to this last phase of my spiritual journey. This part could not have happened if I had not spent the last 8 years teaching and growing and sharing with all of our students. So now I'm into sharing and writing and teaching advanced metaphysics and advanced topics of energy healing and spiritual study, which is exactly what the world needs right now, because we're all changing, whether we recognize it, admit it or not. We are in a phase of human growth and evolution that has never happened before.
Yes.
And whether you want to admit it or ignore it, doesn't matter. It's going to happen anyway, because it's not just us, it's the planet, it's the solar system, all the planets, the sun, and everything is changing.
Yeah.
And so you can either deny it and stay stuck where you are in confusion and fear and worry and got your finger plugged into that crazy socket we call politics, or you can pull your finger out of the socket and start looking for the spiritual meanings behind all of this and embrace it from a planetary perspective, learning to be gentle and caring and loving to each other, learning to be compassionate and patient and tolerant, learning to respect and honor the planet. Most of us think that we are separate from the planet, that, and many think we're superior to it. But the truth of the matter is, we are a life form on the planet, just like the fish in the sea and the bugs that crawl around and the trees and plants. We are all part of this elemental kingdom. We can't live without her air, water, and food. We're part of this system. We're just a different form. And once we understand that we are not separate from it, we can start to live with it and on it in harmonious ways, so we can all survive and be happy through this, going through this transition, because it's going to happen whether you like it or not. It's this, yes,
It's here.
it's here. It's happening. Yeah. Boy, is it happening.
It's, we just have to, I think a lot of it is we have to do what we came here to do. Because so many of us, there's so many of us out here, but a lot of us are hiding. And so it's time now to come out of hiding. Like, it's time to really bring your gifts forward and let's get this thing done.
Yeah, and the hiding, there are many layers to that, because I did my own share of hiding over the last 20 years or so.
Yeah.
And that, it kind of was a lesson in and of itself, because as I stepped out of that energy just in the last few months, I was able to learn some things about myself and why I was in that place. And truthfully, why a lot of people are stuck in it. So I created, in the process of healing and clearing that fear energy, that imposter syndrome mindset, or that I'm not good enough, or people don't like me mindset, the processes that I used to get out of it evolved into a book that I recently wrote and just published, actually, in the last month and just listed it on Etsy. It's available on Etsy.com at my store there now. But it's called Energetic Interference Clearing. And it's an 8-page book, but it has 3 specially guided meditations and some prayers and affirmations and special processes that you go through to clear that fear so that you can finally step out from under it and get into the light. If you feel confused or depressed or sad, you don't know why, or you feel like you're scattered, you just can't get focused, or maybe you feel like there's something in your way, something blocking you, like an invisible force field that just can't break through, or maybe you're going through these cycles of what I call crash and burn in your finances, in your relationships. Every 6 or 7 years, you get things together and they're going good, and then out of the blue, something happens and you're thrown into this crash and the relationship will end, or you lose the job and then you start over. Those are all indications of this energy interference. And through the process of as an energy healer and doing research and looking into things and working with what I know, I was able to come up with what I call a clearing. I'm not going to call it a cure because it continues. If you don't keep the process going or don't do the maintenance, it'll come back. It's something that we have to live with until the energy of this transition changes. But I recently released the book and I've been so amazed at the number of people when I start talking about the symptoms, they go, I've been going through that too. And oh my God, what do I do? And so that kind of prompted me to put this book together so that I could get it out to as many people as possible. Because there's no need for us to go through this suffering and this energetic interference that's making people afraid, making people hide, making people think that they're not good enough. Even if they're doing great at what they do, there's this imposter syndrome energy that makes people step back and say, oh, who am I to think I can do that? You are a divine child of a magnificent creator, and you're supposed to do that. You're supposed to step out there and be that.
I was going to say, that was going to be my question. I said, if somebody came to you and they said, you know what? And let me give you the background. This is a person that they're doing great things. Maybe they might not even be making the money that they want to make, but they're doing great things and you can see the footprints that they're laying down. But they say, you know what? I just felt, who am I to do this? What would you tell them?
Well, I'd start with what I just said. You are a divine creation, a divine child of a magnificent creator. Spirit did make us in its own image, but that image wasn't necessarily the head, arms, legs, and body. The image was the soul, the energy, the presence that is the true part of who we are. Our souls are the energy of spirit, the wisdom, the ability, the creativity. That's who we really are. And that soul is eternal. And you came here with a purpose to contribute, maybe just being the presence of spirit on earth. Or maybe you came here to work out some karmic experiences of stuff you've done over lifetimes. Or maybe you came here to do something great, something big and magnificent that will help people, help change the world, like a Gandhi or a Maya Angelou or someone like that who have contributed in major ways to humanity. We're not all supposed to be that big of a presence, but you never know. Because sometimes people aren't recognized for their contribution until after they're gone. Like Tesla, they did everything they could to stop him from being who he was. And he's been dead for 50 years or something like that. And we're just now recognizing and honoring him for the major contributions that he made. So sometimes you don't even recognize who you are supposed to be, but you are supposed to do your best to share your gifts, to be the presence of light and love in the world. And along your journey, you'll figure it out. But we're not supposed to hide and shrink and be afraid to step into our power. And unfortunately, our lives and the systems that we live in very often contribute to suppressing and compressing us so that we don't step out and do what we're supposed to do. And that's what makes us so unhappy and feeling so unworthy. But everyone, from the lowest to the highest, it's the same soul created by spirit and is here for a reason. There's no one here that's insignificant. It's just that we, in our human standards, we try to define people, and usually based on material wealth and position, as being worthy or unworthy. And the truth is, we are all equal. There is no one above or better than the next person, no matter what their economic or society's position is.
That's awesome and that's powerful. And that's true and real because people do try to put people in a box and judge them and put them over here because of things. It doesn't make any sense. I just love the way that you even express that because people need to hear that. One of the reasons why I do this show, I started doing this show is because people need to hear from people that do spiritual work, but we need to hear from them in this way where people can know that we're real people and got real issues and we really want to do good in the world. And we may not all do it in the same way. We all have our ways, our different ways.
And we shouldn't be trying to do it in the same way. It's our uniqueness that makes us special.
Yes.
Or the uniqueness is what gives us the ability to create things that could be magnificent and different. Because if we all came here and we were all alike, there would be nothing new brought into the world on any level. So our uniqueness is the way we express spirit in its infinite number of ways of being itself. It created us so that it could experience the physical life of doing and creating. We have the hands, we have the bodies, we have the bodies that sense things of the physical world, taste,
Right.
touch, smell, sensing, heat, cold, all that. Spirit experiences all of that through us, through the sensory organ we call the body.
Yeah.
Spirit, it's like spirit creates everything. It's the creator, but we are also parts of the creator and we are the creation of the creator. I know that some people go, "Oh, what is she talking about?" What I'm saying is you came here with a divine soul, which is the energy, the image of spirit. You came here so that spirit could create magnificent things on a physical level. And it is our job to be that process, to be that creator, to be that process by which spirit expresses and sees itself, to see the things that it is capable of doing on a physical level. Spirit creates universes and all this stuff, but it creates them for a reason. So it can have all this variety. Spirit just contemplates and says, "Oh, I want to do this," and make something come into being so it can happen. And then it can see through the eyes of that being or that whatever and say, "Oh, so that's what it would look like in physical form. Oh, wow. Let's do it again. Let's do something else." But we get here on planet Earth and we get so confused and so discouraged that very often we go into hiding or forget who we were and we don't do all of those things. And then we wonder why we get depressed and why we're not feeling happy in our lives and feeling so unfulfilled and feeling like we failed. And it's because you're not expressing. You're supposed to create. You're supposed to do stuff. And you're supposed to do stuff that makes you happy, that makes you smile. It's like a kid when they go out in the yard and they make something out of something in the yard and they run back to mom and say, "Look what I did." That's what we're supposed to do back for spirit. Look what we did.
Look what I did.
Hmm? Look what we did. Look what I did. You gave me the idea and look, it's just hard. Look what I put it in, put my 2 cents in and make it into form. You're supposed to do that so you can tell God, "Look what I did."
And if you think about it, even if you follow the Bible, Jesus said in the New Testament that greater things we would do.
Absolutely.
Me, it's like that was the permission. That was the green light right there.
That was the encouragement. Go do something magnificent. Jesus lived in a time where the technology and even the educational levels weren't ready to do any of the stuff that we do today. Can you imagine what it would be like to go back to his time and show somebody a cell phone?
No.
They'd probably crucify you for working evil magic. For
Correct.
them, it would seem like something beyond the reality. And back then, they destroyed everything they didn't understand. For here, 2,000 years.
I think like now.
So we're still in that mindset. But here, 2,000 years later, we are standing on the threshold of some incredible technology. As I had said earlier, when I was a kid, as a baby boomer child, we didn't even have computers. And our generation began changing the world when I was a teenager. We changed everything. No, we're not going to do that. We're burning bras. We're not going to be locked down anymore. We're going to be free and we're going to do all this stuff and we're creating and making stuff happen. And now we get down to the other end of the spectrum where the computers are intelligent consciousness of its own right. There's nothing else except intelligence and consciousness. So even though we call it a computer and we say it's artificial, it's ancient. It's just that we finally got sophisticated enough in our technology to detect it and communicate with it. And now in our technology, when you're on a computer doing something, trying to get into a website, and the robot comes up and says, "Prove to me that you're human." That's how far we've come. I gotta convince you
Just
that I'm really a human being and really me.
And
By
you're
a
a robot.
And it can tell you, no, I don't believe it. It won't let
Right.
you.
You didn't put this together. It ain't right. You didn't move this thing over here and make it right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, all of that is consciousness because consciousness is all there is. As our science has moved into the quantum fields of technology, and there's so much out there, we're starting to realize that much of our science no longer makes sense because there's much more going on once we stepped out of the box that we've been in for decades in our science. And the scientists are discovering so much more out there that all they're doing is asking more questions because we don't have the technology to understand it the way on the levels that it really is. But with the AI, which I call ancient intelligence, we are starting to step into that quantum field, and it's challenging many of the theories and things we thought were true, especially when it comes to stuff on the cosmology and on the very tiny level. We used to think that every cell, every atom had one proton of light in it. And what they're finding is that no, it has a bunch of them. And we only were able to detect one proton and thought everything evolved around that. And that's totally not true. So they are starting to re-examine what they thought creates the universe, what they thought makes life happen. And now they're just running around saying, what just happened? We thought we knew something. Oh, we didn't know anything because we were looking at it through this little tube. And now that they've taken the tube away and they can, oh my God, there's so much more out here that we're just getting started. And the new children that are born, when they were being born in the 80s and 90s and early 20s, they were the indigo children and the crystal children and the star seeds and all that. They're wired differently and they're now coming into adulthood. They're ready for all of this new science and technology and they're embracing it because they can understand it. Where my generation, the baby boomers, for the most part, are going, I don't get this. And I just figured out how to load my phone, take a picture. It's for the kids. And I'm glad to see some of them really stepping up and doing what we opened the doors for them to do.
Yes. I agree. I agree. I agree. All right. We're going to land this plane on one question that I ask all my guests, and I'm going to ask you today. So if there were one thing that you could change in the world, what would that be and why?
And we talked about that earlier. And my answer is going to be, I wouldn't change anything. I may have made some different decisions about the way I did my life, but because each soul comes here with a unique purpose, and we don't know what each of us came here to do. We don't even really know what we came here to do. For me to change one thing could change the formula or the makeup of everything and set it off in the wrong direction. So I know that in spirit, everything is perfect as it is designed to be, and how it unfolds is appropriate for where it and we are at this point in time. So my answer is I wouldn't change anything other than I might try to be better, a better example or expression of spirit through me. And that's the only thing I have control over, is to change myself to be the best representation of spirit on earth. And that's it.
That's powerful. That's powerful. All right, share with the people what is the best place to connect with you and any last words.
The only last words I have is don't be afraid of what's coming. Open your mind to the new. This is what Jesus and the ancient wise people, ascended masters, and angels have talked about, and they're all here to help us. So don't be afraid of what's coming. Open your minds and your heart, and embrace the light, embrace the spiritual part of all of this, because this is what we prayed for, and spirit is answering the prayer. We must have the courage and the confidence, excuse me, to trust spirit's path and walk it. You can find me on Facebook. You can look up SofiaLyn, that's SofiaLyn on Facebook. Or you can go to my website, which is crystalsangelstarot.com. I do psychic reading, then all kinds of healing, energy healing, and coaching through my website. But if anybody has any questions, they can find me there. That's probably the easiest way to get started. And to find me on Facebook would probably be the simplest way to start.
All right, you heard it from.
If you're not on Facebook, then just look for my website and they can always ask you.
Yes, and her details are going to be in the show notes, so you'll be able to find them there wherever you are listening or watching the show. So thank you so much for joining us on Straight Out of Savannah. You heard my guest, SofiaLyn. She is amazing in consciousness, metaphysician. She is an awesome young lady. So definitely check her out where you can find her. You just heard SofiaLyn. She is phenomenal. She is such an amazing healer. She has created something that was born out of necessity and need for herself that she's sharing with the world. And so make sure that you are following her on Facebook. And then if you are looking for community, you are looking for a space, a place where people are kind and nice, and a place where you can learn and grow in your spiritual gifts, and a place where you remember who the fuck you are. Join the membership that I have. Remember who the fuck you are. I'm looking for founding members, people who are looking to understand who they are and grow in spirit and connect to their God self. So come and join us where we have 2 Zoom calls a month. There is a community portal where I have lots of amazing and interesting things for you. And I want it to be a place where it's just not too much to do. Like it's a place that you want to go to, and a place where feels like home, like the Cheers bar. So join me and remember who the fuck you are. Make sure that you check it out in my stand store at Intuitive Tammi. Again, thank you so much for joining us on Straight Out of Savannah. Have a wonderful rest of your day, night, evening, weekend, whatever it is for you. Thank you so much. Bye now.